Unusakkutungu salormagitigalatakuttaalormatillugu uvanga Eva Michael. Nunavugavamakkungit khimiqwapallialermaji paipaanik saqqitaulortuni nuluyaan nunami naussuttertinnik tamanilagayauluni nuluyaani naussirtertiit nunami akigiarsimaneriyangi baafinlaankunnik ammalu tamanna iqqartuivikkuurtit nasuarneriyanga kikkutuinernu takuyatsaulерluni kisiani nunavugavamakkungit piviqartitsilaungimmata saqqitauhullut git iqqartuivitigut ammalu joodinningiutsaeu qausiqartillugu tamanna akaunguleerutiuvalliajoq
nuluyakkut nautirturtingit baafinlaankut qigirtaniinui katutjuqatigiingit ammalu nunavut tungavikkut tamarmi naalagniqartittilaartut nunavu iqqartuiviani novemberlerpat teikaniinniartuit aivagiartorlutik taakkua nuluyaa nautirturtiit akigiartorlutik maligatigut piyumaningata nunami avalusimayumi nuluyaani qauyinasuarniqalortut iqqartui jutiksaqarmangaa tallermiutillugu nunavumi nunai taiyausimayut apirilorput nunavut iqqartuivikkunni qauyisartauquyillutik titiqartausimayunik nuluyaakkut nautirturtingit atiliurunnarmangaataa nunait piyunnautiqarvigiyauyut titiqarvinni taayolluni nalunaikkuta suliutaqqiyuq iqqartuivikkutigu taanna qauyisarutoogiartur nautirturtiit iqqartuivikkuurtittiyut uyeqarniartikkunni tunisiniarluni nalunaikkutarmi utaqqiyumik iqqartuivikkuurtitaunearnermi nunami piyunnautiqarnermu titiqarvimmi piyariaqarput taayoyumik maligatigut isumagiyeqarmangaataa nunami nautirturtikkut uyeqarniarviu inigiyanga maligatigut nagmineriyaungma qigirtani inui katutjiqatigiikkunnu kisiani qauyimanangittoq nautirturtiit uyeqarniarviu nunangani isumagiyeqarmangaataa tallermiutillugu tusaaniqalorput qauyigasuarsutik qangakkut tusaaniqaloarmangaataa novembermik atunik aivatjutiqartitaulutik apiqqutimik jordaningiutsaaq CBC pivalliajut iqaluni
nunavummi qanimattaalamajalqayikku uqarsimalermiyui nunavummiumik inuyunniartoqamini yuminiugianganumartuarni 19 qanimalluni gavamakka uqartuti taanna nunavummi quliungiluagalaalertiu inuyunniarsimayu numartuarni 19 mun ammalu uqarsimagillutit tamanna inuyunniirnerilaortanga mamianallarittuugula iqqa tutiukkanneriaqartuni numartuarni 19 suli tappaumman taana inuyunniartimilaortuq tallermiutillugu kingarni taana aanniavigiyauyuq matuikkarnilaalermiyuq taqqilimaaq mi sivuvalqluni parnasimayaulaoqaluangan taqqiununguani matuilaaqiangani nunavut qanimattainimajoloqiikkungi uqartutik matuikkarnilaartuq pingatsiuleqqat September 7 matuiqtutsamaangulaortuugula September 30 utillugu matusimanerilaortanga tamanna pitjutiqaluartu iqqinayiartikitsanninginnut angijuqqautigiyauyuq qarsimallut iqqinayiqataqarpalliajuit iqqinayiarpalliajuit nalunangitsiartimi nunavummiutait atuinnauviugunnaqorlugi piyitserautinu aanniavinni tamakkuallu uqa kamagi
there. I feel like that was their negligence. They should be held accountable for missing their step and missing their job.
Lazarin lost out on vacation days and 3 paid work days. The federal government says travelers need to submit a new form on the app every single time they travel. Otherwise, they're not considered fully vaccinated and therefore subject to quarantine and testing. On the government website, it says people crossing at land borders who haven't completed the app will be told by a border officer to submit their information. Direction Lazarin says he did not receive.
There's a real question if a border agent didn't do what they were supposed to do in asking for the app to be shown, why an individual would then subsequently face consequences of that lapse, which was not their fault.
And according to a recent lawsuit, Lazarin isn't alone. The Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms filed a lawsuit against the Attorney General of Canada on behalf of 11 vaccinated and unvaccinated Canadians who it says were either fined for not using the app or ordered to quarantine.
such a wide variety of cases that it's really hard to understand where the justification is for this requirement, what the logic is behind it.
The lawsuit looks to remove mandatory use of the app and have $1,000 in damages awarded per person. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
This here is an international border crossing between the state of Vermont and Quebec. Many travelers are getting help with the ArriveCAN app right here. It's the Alice M. Ward Memorial Library in the small town of Canaan on the U.S. side, the closest American building with public Wi-Fi. Part-time librarian Sharon Ellingwood-White says she's become the de facto expert for some very stressed out travelers.
An 83-year-old woman driving from out of state who's going to Montreal. She explained she'd lived there 25 years. No email account, no smartphone, many hours away from home, and she was turned back to the library. She was shaking. She was in tears. She was traveling alone. And I had to make her a Gmail account. I had to advise her what that entails and educate her on what this means, that she now has an account with Google. I said, you may want to share this information with your children, so you know what's going on. And she said, I don't have children. So I don't have children. It is such an easy objection to say these elderly travelers need to find a teenager or they need to find someone to help them. And that is not equity. That is not equity. They cannot access ArriveCAN.
As the municipal election inches closer and closer, less than 2 months away now, we've been wanting to hear from you about what issues are near and dear to you. So that is why CBC was at the night market in Walkerville on Friday. I was there with Windsor Morning host Nav Nanwa, and here's just some of what you had to say.
I heard that you want a new playground.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah? Why do you want a new playground?
Because this one is kind of old.
It's kind of old, and you want what kind of upgrades do you want to see on the playground?
So like monkey bars.
Monkey bars. Oh, a new slide.
Yep.
Yeah. What's on your mind? Actually, Natalie, we'll begin with you. What's on your mind when it comes to the municipal election that's coming up?
Safe roads, good transit, and investment in our public board and our schools and our future.
Wow. And Carmen, what about you?
That we're safe.
What is on your mind, Madeline?
Housing prices.
Yeah.
Why are half my friends not able to afford houses when they are working incredible jobs and, working 2 jobs, even some of them, and it's just not fair. It's not fair to us. And so what is our government going to do about that to make a difference?
So you heard from some of the young people in our community there, but there are also young people running who say they want to fill a void and address some of these needs. Age may just be a number to some, but these candidates feel a youthful perspective is missing from the council table. CBC's Jason Vio brings us the story.
3 young candidates are running for council seats in Windsor, Essex, and they have a few things in common. All don't own a home, which speaks to the larger issue of housing affordability, and say that youthful point of view is missing around council tables.
I bring a completely unique perspective to City Council that's not been heard.
I deliver a fresh perspective on somebody that's growing up and is trying to live in Kingsville, trying to afford their own place, their own home.
It really helps having a young person because they're looking at the future of the town and they can also relate to the needs of that age group.
A recent survey shows 25% of millennials ages 26 to 41 who don't own a home believe they never will. That was done by polling firm Ledger on behalf of Royal LePage. For 22-year-old Sydney Brouillard-Coyle, who takes a city bus everywhere, that perspective is also missing from council. But this passion for politics started at just 11 years old. And what inspired Brouillard-Coyle to run in Windsor's Ward 7 was this past provincial election in June.
In particular, seeing such low voter turnout. That was very disappointing. My biggest mission in this is to inspire people to get out and vote, to show them that their voice does matter, that they do deserve to have a voice.
Out in Kingsville, unlike many his age, Gideon Spivak's interest in politics started when he was 12. He got experience at Queen's Park with the Ontario Legislative Page program. Now at 18, he left political science at the University of Toronto for some real-world political experience and hopes more young people become more politically engaged.
A lot of the young people's focus is on provincial or federal issues. But really, people don't understand that you can affect the most change really at the municipal level.
And heading west to Amherstburg, you'll find Lyndon Crane, the 22-year-old aiming for one of 5 council seats in that municipality. As his high school's student council president, he hopes to take those skills of representing and helping people to a larger scale. But he understands why other young people may be hesitant to run due to public scrutiny on social media.
Everyone's going to like the decisions that you're making. So for a young person to put their name forward and, put their reputation on the line, I guess you could say, it's very intimidating, and it's not something that everyone wants to do.
It's unclear the age demographic of people who vote, run, or are elected in municipal politics, as that information isn't tracked. But these candidates say they hope to be some of the youngest ever elected to their councils. We'll see if that happens on October 24th. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
The Ford government voted today to fast-track its long-term care legislation. That means it moves forward without public hearings. The controversial bill would allow hospital patients waiting for a spot in long-term care to be transferred without their consent. That's now one step closer to becoming law. And while the government won't hear from the public on the matter, it did hear from the opposition. Lorenda Redekop has more.
All those in favor of the motion will please say aye.
Aye. The government majority easily won the vote.
My opinion.
No matter how loud the opposition raised their voices, it confirms consultation will not happen. The government will not hear from families or experts before passing their changes to long-term care.
Is the government refusing to hold hearings because they know their plan won't work and they don't want to hear it?
They are on the waiting list for long-term care. Medical professionals have said that you're better serviced in a long-term care home, Mr. Speaker. That is what we are trying to accomplish here.
The Premier brought up previous quotes by NDP members raising the issue of having people in hospital beds who need long-term care.
They're saying they shouldn't be in the hospitals. Next day, they should be in the hospitals. Make up your mind.
Thank you.
The interim NDP leader says the issue is being allowed to move people without consent.
Speaker, just to be clear, we don't advocate coercion of the frail and the elderly.
The Premier says long-term care is what around 2,000 people now in hospital require, and moving them will help relieve hospital overcrowding.
That's a home versus a hospital that you're stuck in a room with 4 other patients. The alarms are going off, bells are going off. That would be cruel to leave a loved one, any parent in this province, in a hospital. We need them in a home.
There will be 2 hours of official debate time on this motion. This afternoon, opposition members used debate about the throne speech to talk about this.
Bill 7. Well, we didn't see that come into the throne speech, did we? Nary a mention.
Opposition parties say they've been told families could be moved to a home up to 300 kilometres away if they're in the north, 100k in most of southern Ontario, 30 kilometres in cities including Toronto. Late last week, the government said no decisions have been made, but consultations are happening.
Hazard a guess to say that families that are in that position right now, most of them don't know about this bill and won't know what's coming down the pipe. That's why doing it so quickly is a problem.
It's unclear exactly when this bill will become law, but it's expected to happen later this week. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and several cabinet ministers attended a ceremonial flag raising in Ottawa today.
This flag is an expression of remembrance. It is meant to honor all survivors and all the lives through the generations that have been, are being, and will continue to be impacted by the residential school system.
The orange and white survivors flag features 9 distinct elements, each with a special meaning. It was designed in consultation with survivors from across Canada. The flag will fly near the Visitor Welcome Centre on Parliament Hill until 2024. A decision will then be made on finding the flag a permanent home. The Liberal government says the delivery of federal services is getting better. Today, the cabinet task force that has been charged with improving wait times for passports, visas, and at airports reported that things are getting better. But as CBC's Paige Parsons reports, many international students are still waiting on visas with classes set to start in just days.
where I was like
dreams on hold.
So I'm literally hanging on by a thread here.
International students like Naman Gupta were hoping to start classes at Canadian universities and colleges this fall, but delays in processing student visas mean they're stuck in their home countries.
I'm pretty sad about it, to be really honest, because all my plans for this particular year got slashed out in a heartbeat.
To come to Canada, international students have to pay up front, and the cost is much higher for them than for Canadian students. Dinesh Kamath has paid about $26,000, but because his visa is delayed, he can't start class at York University until January.
So that's how it is, but the loan which I took and the interest which I have to pay on it is something which is demanding right now.
Before the pandemic, we used to get the decisions in 1 week, 2 weeks, and in many instances, we actually used to get them within 48 to 72 hours. But now it's taking 4 to 6 months.
This international student recruiter says he has more than 100 clients in India whose study plans have been disrupted by delays. He says the once smooth process has become unpredictable. The federal government says they are doing everything they can to get students to Canada in time for the start of the semester.
We expect that we're going to process a little more than 104,000 additional study permits. There has been an absolute explosion in demand when it comes to Canada's international student program in recent years.
The backlog of student visas is just one of several problems a task force of federal ministers says they've made progress on, including delays, passport applications, and hiring airport screening staff.
Nobody should be congratulating themselves for having done their jobs. We are by no stretch of the imagination out of the woods yet.
96% of Canadians who applied for a passport in person are going to get their passport within 10 business days. For those who use the mail-in system, which is still quite delayed, the federal government says you can call Service Canada for help. Paige Parsons, CBC News, Ottawa.
Let's take a live look outside. There's some intense weather right now, very strong winds, rainfall happening. Our whole building was shaking just moments ago. That's because there is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect right now for Chatham-Kent and for Windsor-Essex. That in combination with the current heat warning is it's really turning into something this evening. Dahlia will be here after the break and she will explain how long this will last and what's to come. Stay with us. It is time for weather, and for that we've got Dahlia Ashry joining us now. Dahlia, it's really good that you're here with us because it is intense outside our building right now. I can hear it, and right now we can all look at it together. This is a live look from our tower cam. You can see how windy it is. You can see some of the whitecaps on the Detroit River. It is raining. It is, I mean, I had some colleagues run to the windows. The noise was so intense. So talk us through what's going on and how long it's going to last.
So much happening, Katerina. I mean, Mother Nature just turned on the tap, decided to make it rain, humidity. There's a severe thunderstorm, a warning that's in effect right now for southwestern Ontario, and as well a heat warning. So you have that cool front and the warm front mixing in with that moisture, bringing in those severe thunderstorms. So that's really the story for today and over the next few days, really, or mostly tomorrow, is that severe thunderstorm watch that we'll be keeping an eye on. The normal high this time of year is 25 degrees. We're sitting well above that at 29. The normal low is 14. We're sitting at 22. So we're sitting above those seasonal temperatures. Windsor is 28 degrees right now. Goderich 26. Sarnia 30. You factor in that humidity that we're experiencing, that moisture and that heat that we're talking about. Feels more like 37 degrees right now in Windsor. 41 in Sarnia, so that's that heat warning. So make sure you're checking in on your loved ones, especially those that are vulnerable or elderly. Make sure you're staying hydrated as well. So there's that severe thunderstorm warning and watch that we're talking about, as well with that heat warning. And it's coming in from Michigan right here, that we could see that pattern coming in right into Windsor. So we're keeping an eye on that for the next few hours, especially as we head into tomorrow as well. You see that cloudiness and that precipitation making its way in. But then tonight, temperatures should cool down a little bit, and we'll take a look at that right now. In Windsor, it'll feel like 21 degrees, and mostly across southwestern Ontario, it's in it'll be 21 degrees. Now tomorrow, again, there is a risk of a thunderstorm, and then Wednesday and Thursday you get a break. You get that sunshine and the dry conditions, so we're taking a little bit of a break from the moisture. Then Friday and Saturday as well, but in the evening we'll see that temperatures cool down just a little bit Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Saturday picks back up and we get that heat again.
Definitely nice to have that relief there. Thank you for talking us through that and explaining what is going on out there.
Thanks, Katerina. Have a great time, and make sure you have your umbrella for tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks. And when we come back, Serena Williams at the U.S. Open. Tonight could be her last singles match ever. We'll tell you about it right after the break. We're taking a live look outside once again as we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect right now for both Windsor, Essex and for Chatham-Kent. We've had some intense winds, some intense rainfall. We're hearing reports that water is starting to flood in certain areas, so something to definitely look out for. This is expected to continue into the evening, and one of the key hazards here are these wind gusts up to 90 to 110 kilometers per hour. So be safe out there. Be careful as you're hitting those roads, and stay inside as best as you can. Tomorrow, it should clear up by then. The U.S. Open Tennis Championship is underway in New York, and one of the greatest players ever takes to the court this evening, and it could be the final singles match of her career. That's for Serena Williams. The 40-year-old Williams has won 23 Grand Slam singles titles. She's taken the U.S. Open 6 times. Her opening round is against Danka Kovinic of Montenegro. Williams recently announced she's ready to step away from pro tennis, and the U.S. Open is expected to be her final tournament. Along with her singles play, Serena is set to appear with her sister Venus in a doubles match later in the week. 50 years after the last Apollo lunar mission, NASA's return to the moon will need to wait a few more days. This morning's scheduled launch of Artemis 1 has been put off until at least Friday.
This is Artemis Launch Control with an update. Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson has called a scrub.
A problem with cooling one of the 4 massive rocket engines kept the spacecraft on the ground. This test flight is supposed to be the first big step toward returning humans to the moon as early as 2025. Today's scrub was not completely unexpected. Similar problems were encountered during testing weeks ago. The next opportunity to launch comes on Friday. If that doesn't work out, NASA could try again next Monday. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.